So I honestly believe that once I changed this, it was one of the major factors that allowed me to start selling over 100 homes a year. And what I'm talking about specifically is pipeline maturity. And for whatever reason, I'm just really focused on this. I'm really obsessed with this thought. I'm spending a lot of time talking about this with the agents that I coach. And on this channel, I made a video last week in my closet talking about this, trying to map it out visually for you guys so you can really look at this and make some sense out of it. And I want to even go deeper on this, because for me, here was the huge mistake that I was making. So I was so focused on contact to appointment set, that ratio, which absolutely is important. And what I learned when I look at the data over the past decade, and then I look at all the agents that I coach, the fact of the matter is this, that from first contact, we're not talking about second contact and beyond, we're going to talk about that in a second. When we look at first contact to listing appointment set, it's probably like around 5%, meaning 95% of the conversations when we have that first interaction with the prospect doesn't yield a listing opportunity, or listing appointment rather. And I was so focused on that first conversation to set that listing appointment. And if I didn't get a listing appointment, I was really bad at doing anything with that conversation. They would just fall through the cracks. I didn't have a system for what happened. I wasn't even thinking about it, quite frankly, which is the reason why I'm making this video, because this is what I'm seeing. I saw an agent, one of the agents I coach, he posted in our Facebook group, and he posted his numbers for July. And he was talking about his contact to appointment set ratio, appointment to kept ratio, his kept to taken, taken to sold. He was walking us all through his ratios. And I'm like, dude, you forgot the most important ratio. Contact to lead generated, lead to appointment set. That's what this video is about. And it's what I was missing for such a long time. And it was the cause of my burnout, quite frankly, because I would have to make so many outbound dials, so many conversations, because I was looking for the appointment. It's not that we don't want the appointment. When we have a good conversation with the seller, certainly we want to go for the appointment when there's an appointment to be had, but we have to look at the what's more likely to happen. In this case, 95% of the time, there isn't a listing appointment to be had. So that's a lot. That's like the vast majority of the time. And I didn't have a plan for that. And so what ended up happening is, I would just get what I got from first contacts. And I wasn't building a pipeline. And it wasn't until I was building a pipeline that I understood, wow, I can actually monetize my future by the work I do today. So interesting. I can actually focus today on securing my future, and that will prevent my burnout or this mindset of feeling overwhelmed. Here's what I mean. So having 25 or 30 conversations per day, sometimes that would yield an appointment. But what I found was the listing appointments I was going on were actually from people that I had already talked to 2 or 3 or 4 times in the past. They were coming out of lead follow-up anyways. I just wasn't realizing it. Like, I wasn't focused on it. I didn't have intention around it. It was just happening. But then when I really started to bring intention around it, which is what I want to talk to you guys about in this video, everything changed for me. Because now I was focused on generating a lead. Those 25 or 30 conversations today, whereas before I was just like appointment. It was like all or nothing. It was an appointment or fucking throw this thing in the garbage. And I'm like, dude, you're missing the whole entire point. The most important thing we should be doing, it's called lead generation. And I'm like, ding, 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 ding. I wasn't generating any leads. yeah, I'll get an appointment here or there, but I was missing 95% of the opportunities I was missing. 95% of the opportunities I was missing. That's significant. And that is exactly what happened to me. So as I started to build an actual pipeline, 25, 30 conversations would usually yield in 2 to 3 really good seller leads that I got to put into the database every single day. And you want to talk about instant gratification and benefiting from that, there was nothing better. I could get a direct result on a daily basis to prove to myself that the work I was going through, all the rejection, all the calls, that it meant something, because I was walking away with 2, 3 really good opportunities every single day. And so what ended up happening was, when I would put those seller leads into a database, follow up with them on a specific, consistent plan, I started getting way more appointments. So here's what would happen. I walk you through an example. So the first month of doing this, I would get 20, 25, 30 really good solid leads. Yes, I'd be getting my appointments, but those would all be from first conversations in that month. So I'd get a couple, right? But then the next month, I would still only be having 20 or 25, 30 conversations a day. I got double the amount of appointments. And I said, okay, I just tracked that. All these appointments in month 2 were coming from contacts in month 1. Then the third month of getting into it, same thing happened. Started going on even more appointments. Fourth month, started going on more appointments. And it was probably 5-6 months into really focusing on building this pipeline that I realized I was going on a listing appointment every single day. Not from the conversations I was having that day or that week or that month. They were for conversations I was having from people 3, 4, 5, 6 months in the past. And I'm like, boom, pipeline maturity. I get it now. I understand what it means to generate a lead, put that person into a system, and follow up with that person over time. That's where all the appointments come out of anyway. 80 to 90% of your appointments comes out of lead follow-up anyways. When I started to bring intention around that, everything changed for me. And so I'm hoping the same happens for you. That's why I just hate the advice. And I think I made a video about this a couple months ago, that like if somebody's not ready to sign a contract in the next 7 days, you throw it away. That's just nonsense. It's so rare that is ever going to be the occurrence. I mean, it's so rare to find that. You're talking about a needle in a haystack. I hate that saying, but that's what you're talking about. Because people start to think about selling their home months and months and months, sometimes longer, in advance before they're ready to sign anything, before they're ready to meet with anybody, before they're ready to put a sign in the front yard, before they're ready to kick their kids out and show the house and get the dogs out. And they start thinking about this months in advance. The thought of like calling somebody right now and you catch them like within 4 days of making that decision, it's so unlikely. What's a lot more likely is for you to have conversations with people to say, yeah, you know, we're kind of in that process of thinking about it, and you can have a conversation that leads to a lead generated. And I'll leave you with my definition of a lead. What I look at, what I define as a lead that's going to go into my follow-up system, and I'll make a video on that system another day, is a seller who has clear motivation to sell the home. So we get into why is it that they're thinking about potentially moving from the home that they're already in? Why not just stay in that home? And now they defend that position with me to say, well, it's too small, it's too big, we're having a baby, we're getting married, job transfer, whatever the case may be. Clear motivation to sell. Number 2 is they give me clear timelines. Awesome. Well, in an ideal world, if everything kind of came together, when do you see yourself making the move? They tell me 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, next year, after the holidays, couple weeks, whatever. That's number 2, timelines. Number 3, they don't have, or they're not committed to a real estate agent, and they are open to meeting with me to give me the opportunity to interview for the job of listing and selling their home. That's number 3. And number 4 is the prospect has agreed to continue to stay in touch. They asked me to follow up with them. They invited the follow-up. They drove the next steps. It's called a micro commitment. So I say, Mr. Prospect, hey, listen, appreciate you taking the time with me on the phone. When would you like to hear from me next? When would it make sense for us to have our next conversation? And they say, why don't you follow up with me? Boom. When I have all of those, that's how I define a lead. So for all of you that have always asked questions about that, that's the answer. And I was able to get 2 or 3 of those things every single day. And so can you. And when you focus on, okay, I do want appointments. It is why I'm making the outbound calls, knowing 95% of the time it won't end with an appointment. The next thing you should be focused on is, okay, what do I do now? If this person isn't ready to meet with me now, I got to have a plan for that. That's where 90% of your future business is going to come from. And I was missing it all. If I didn't get it now, I was going to get it never. And when I changed that, changed my entire business, my entire life. Hoping the same thing happens for you. We'll see you guys tomorrow.